So I had an idea for a blog article that I wanted to call Seeing is Believing, and it's, all about the power of visualization. But then I realized writing about visualizing is, I don't think it's as effective as what a podcast could be. And I'm feeling kind of lazy and don't really want to write. So let's talk about visualizations. So I've recorded a guided meditation that that will go along with this podcast, and I also have a previous podcast called Learning to Fly. That's a real example of a recent visualization that I've had. And in the beginning of the meditation, I alluded to the fact that for whatever reason, I have a lot of visualizations. These things just come to me. I just see things, and yeah. I don't know if that's fucking normal or not. I have no idea, but it happens, and it's happened both deliberately because I wanted to see something. There was something I needed clarity on, so I focused and tried to see, try to add some creativity, some compassion, some courage into things, and how I could, just trying to see what reality would look like. Well, it goes back to, here's my current state. I want it to move to this desired state. So I've always found visualization as the most powerful way to move from current state to desired state, because we can't move from one state to another unless we can actually see ourselves in a different situation. This was really hard for me because when I was the one thing that I can say about chronic anxiety and panic attacks, because that's what used to plague me to an extent where I had to be medicated for it at a certain point in my life, was when you're anxious or when you're having a panic attack, I could never I could not see the sun through the clouds. I could not imagine myself ever being happy again. I only knew that state of panic and terror and anxiety and worry, and I could not see myself ever coming out of it. No, of course I did, and I always did, but it didn't matter, because when I was in that mindset, when I was in that anxious mindset, that's all I knew. That was my current state, and I could not see myself happy or anything other than anxious and terrified, really. So this is one thing visualization can help with, and this is why meditation can be really helpful, because it allows our brains to kind of naturally see whatever it wants to see, and it's a way for our subconscious to start talking to our conscious. Funny story, I accidentally, one of the best examples I have of visualizations, and I kind of did it during the guided meditation. This was an actual thing that happened to me. When I first started meditating, I'll never forget, I was laying on my couch, and it wasn't a guided meditation. I was just meditating, and all of a sudden I saw myself like just bound in all these frickin' ropes. And the more I struggled, the tighter they got, like a boa constrictor. And it's actually a lot like the learning to fly scenario, because at one point I just realized that I just needed to stop struggling and relax. And when I did, the ropes just went slack, and I could very easily just get up and walk away. But that was my subconscious telling me, like, just fucking stop struggling for 2 seconds. And that's always reminded me of the lyrics from the song Already Gone by the Eagles. My favorite lyrics from that song are, "Oftentimes it happens that we live our lives in chains, and we never even knew we had the key." In Relational Tetris, I talk a bit about this concept. When we live under false beliefs, these are the ropes and chains that we bind ourselves in. We limit what we believe we can do because we think these things that just aren't true. I have always thought that everyone I love will leave me. So even when I was in love, I thought I knew that they would leave me. So it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those relationships were doomed to fail. Because the more they loved me, the more I tried to push them away, because I had to make what I believed true. I believed they would leave me. So if they didn't seem keen to leave me, I would fight. I'd pick fights and I'd start shit, and that was a small majority. Mostly I was fucking awesome. I'm a great girlfriend. I'm very thoughtful, very kind, very caring 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time, I was really busy sabotaging myself and my own happiness and trying to push them out of my life because I didn't know how to be happy and I didn't know how to believe that I deserved happiness. I know that that's really bleak, but that's kind of the fucking point, right? I don't deserve to live my life that way. But as long as I falsely believed, that I could not have a healthy relationship, that the people I loved would leave me, I was doomed. I was doomed. Every relationship I was going to have was doomed to fail. And these visualizations have helped me uncover a lot of this underlying bullshit so that I can be free. So that I can be like, you know what? I'm fucking awesome girlfriend. And, the next time I'm not going to do that. Or when I do start doing that, I'm going to realize what I'm doing so I can stop it. It is now a choice to behave that way. Yeah, and in a way, meditating is little more than the pause I talk about in Pause for the Cause. Like, we're inserting that time to stop and just sit with ourselves and pause, ask ourselves how we think, how we feel, and how those thoughts and feelings result in our behaviors. Sometimes they make us happy, sometimes we want to fucking bang our head up against a wall. A couple of other things that I like to visualize, and you can, just look up guided meditations online. There's so much, but a particularly powerful visualization that I've done was actually where I went to my happy place, which is always a garden. Whenever I want to go to my happy place, I'm always in a garden or a forest. And I can actually smell the moss and the flowers, and there's always a waterfall or some sort of fountain. But that's my happy place. Lots of people have different happy places. But I did this meditation from this book, and it was all about meeting my shadow. And I tell you what, that visualization actually scared the shit out of me. I was in my happy place, and then I was supposed to envision all the things I hated about myself, or my shadow. So our shadows are all those things that we find intolerant about ourselves, all of those things that we feel ashamed of. And I'll share this because I believe in giving people tangible explanations, even if it is a bit humiliating. Because if I can't do that, then it's not fair for me to ask other people to explore that aspect of themselves. So get honest with ourselves. Here we go. When I met my shadow, what I saw, and I honestly expected to see someone who was really, really fat, because I used to be obese, and that was a big source of pain in my life. But when I met my shadow, she was completely anorexic, and she had scars all over her skin like she was a meth addict. She just was so emaciated, and she was so scared, and she was shivering, and she just looked so sick. And she swore, and she was angry, and she yelled at me, and she didn't want my help. But over the course of weeks, months, I just kept going back. In my meditations, I kept going back to this garden and just saying, I'm just going to be here. I'm just going to be here until she trusts me enough to know that I care about her. And that was gosh, I don't know if that was a year ago or... That's helped me. It's helped. And the fucked up thing about visualizations is it's helped me in ways I can't actually explain. All I know is that I'm a happier person, and I don't beat myself up so often. But I don't know how that happened. But I know it's because I did that work in my meditations. We all have shit about ourselves that we don't like. We all have an inner shadow that if we met them in real life, we would fucking hate them. How do we know? Well, have you ever met someone in real life you don't fucking like? It's usually because they have an attribute that our shadow has, that our inner shadow has. Because guess what? We're all human. We all share each other's attributes. Don't think that person over there is a greedy asshole, because guess what? So are we. We're all capable of being greedy. We're all capable of being jealous. We're all capable of all of it. There's a finite number of human emotions. We can do them all. We choose, or we are conditioned to not like some, so we try to suppress them. And guess what? That's what we end up hating in other people. When really we're just saying, I hate that person for being selfish, when really we're just saying, I hate the selfish part of myself, but I can't deal with that, so I'm going to hate them instead, because it's a lot easier. I think I talk about this in my compassion podcast a bit, but this is about visualization as a tool to kind of undo some of that conditioning and loosen those ropes so that we can start to forgive ourselves when we do act like a dick. Life's not perfect. We're all just doing the best we can with what we've got. It's taken me a long time to realize that there's no fucking point in hating myself. But this is what it's like. A visualization I had in the pool the other day, because this is what happens to me. It does happen a lot when I exercise, admittedly. My mind wanders and I just start seeing shit. And I saw myself like, make a choice. Make a choice. Go here or go there. I go over there. And it was like I was looking at this landscape, and I make a choice and a little house pops up. And then all of a sudden I hear the song, We Built This City by Jefferson Starship. Look, I'm not here to say I'm normal. These are just fucking examples, all right? And as I go around making choices, little houses go up, some houses catch on fire, some houses get bigger, some sections of my city get completely demolished. And I started to realize that every decision that we make, all the choices that we make, we're manifesting our realities. And we're building these cityscapes that are the world we live in. And that's okay. All we can do is learn from those choices. Oh, I chose to take this job and this house over here came up. But three of those houses over there fucking fell apart. But maybe those houses needed to fall apart. Maybe we didn't need to live in those houses anymore. This is getting complicated. It made a lot more sense in my brain. But if you can... Some houses get old and fall over, and that's fine. But every choice we make is an opportunity to build new. To build our city on a different level and create a new landscape. Create a new reality. We don't have to keep making the same decisions and building the same fucking houses, because who wants a city with all the same houses in it? That's fucking boring. Let's go big and make a decision that could create a huge tower. Or make a decision that blows up in our face and wipes out half our city. But guess what? Now we get to create a whole new city. Sometimes we are literally skinned. All we have to do is think about a time when our hearts were completely broken. And we just felt raw and skinned alive. Like breathing hurt. I sincerely hope that some of the people that listen to this don't know what I'm talking about, because it is oh boy, is it painful. But it's a whole new opportunity to learn and be different and to choose differently. And the last one that I'll talk about is something that came to me because of a pretty short relationship that I had. Short, but very significant. I intuitively felt that this person in my life was basically a stepping stone. For some reason, every time I hung out with him, I kind of just, in my mind's eye, saw myself skipping across some rocks. So I knew, like, this isn't for a long time, but I meant to learn something from being in this relationship. But I always thought of stepping stones when I was around him. Well, things happened, and I decided to cling to this person instead of understanding that they were supposed to just be a stepping stone in my life. Because once you're in a relationship and you like the person and you start to get feelings for them and you have a connection, we might intuitively know that the relationship isn't supposed to last forever. But other things get in the way. My fear of being lonely and getting on in age and not having a relationship was scary, and I was like, no, I don't want to get off this stone. I like it. I like this stone. But if we stay on a stepping stone too long, what's going to happen? Stepping stones are stepping stones for a reason. They're not stable. Either they're going to collapse eventually under our weight and we're all going to end up in the fucking drink. Or they wash away from the stream if there's too much rainfall. If we don't heed that prompt to move off the stepping stone and we linger too long, the universe is going to move us off that fucking rock, whether we want to move or not. So if it can be a choice, and believe me, I'm only saying this because I intuitively see things as stepping stones, and I'm like, no, I cling so hard to that fucking rock, and I always end up in the drink. I can laugh about it now, but when it happens, it really fucking sucks. But now I know, right? So now I know my tendency to, it goes back to the shadow thing. I know my tendencies to do these things. So if I see that I'm doing it, I can remind myself, well, we can sit here and cling like we normally do, or we can choose to move on, and avoid a little bit of pain. And sometimes I choose to, and sometimes I choose not to. Talk to someone with a body full of tattoos about pain, and it'll be an interesting conversation, I can guarantee you that. I've never met anybody with as many tattoos as me that exactly shies away from pain, but you know what? That's just my way. I tend to learn from pain. Not something I would recommend to everybody, but I have accepted that that is, for now, my way. I'm looking to shift that, but it'll likely take a lot longer than the time I've spent to date on shifting different mindsets. I've moved a lot of mindsets, so I'm pretty happy with my progress, really. Which is a mindset shift in and of itself, because I used to have to be perfect, or else I'm shit. So just accepting that where I am in life, and that I know that there's still things that I need to change about myself, but not being in too terribly much of a hurry to do it, because I trust that it will eventually shift on its own. Fuck if that isn't progress for me. I am not at all certain that any of this has made sense. But, hey, I don't really do this shit to make sense. It's called the fucking rabbit hole. Take it for what it's worth, make it meaningful for yourself, and have fun.